first off, how long have you been playing Overwatch for?
Um, I'd like to say a couple years, but I could be wrong.
Okay. So then let's say like the past 2 weeks or so, how often have you been playing the game?
I've been trying to play more. Well, I've been playing quite a bit of Overwatch, but I've been trying to play more than I normally do. So I'd probably say 3 to 4 hours.
Okay, a day?
Yeah,
Okay. And
since
then
it's
yeah.
summertime for me.
So you are 2 stars currently on this account. Does so playing for a couple of years out at that pacing, I would imagine you'd have a few more than that. Is this a alt account, or do you just not play? Have you not played as consistently in the past?
I haven't played as consistently in the past.
Okay. So then, a final question for you is: do you have any questions for me before we begin?
No, not I can think of now.
All right, and then we're going over Bastion here, yeah.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
like I said, I kind of wanted to play like to learn kind of soldier, but I think I switched to soldier at some point in the game. I think.
Okay. Do you want to skip to that point, or did you want to go over the Bastion gameplay?
No, it's fine. I have Bastion's my most played character, so it's fine.
Okay, sounds good. So then, yep, I'll just be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to talk about then.
Yes, I'm watching at the same time you are, so
Hmm? What are you watching? Are you talking about the stream?
no,
Or
I'm watching the stream and my clip at the same time.
okay, I mean you don't have to watch it on your end. You can just watch the stream.
Yeah.
All right. So here, I mean, you don't have much control over where your Orisa is placing shield, but you do have control over where you're setting up. So I would probably recommend not setting up so close, as Bastion likes to have some time to shoot at people. So Bastion is a character which you would define as a spam character. So he likes to do a bunch of shots. He can shoot from relatively far away, and he likes to put himself at a pretty far distance or medium distance, at the very least away from people. Whereas here, this puts us pretty close to them, so I probably recommend standing more so on this corner, like right here, because from this, sorry, there's a lot of sounds in my background there.
Yeah, it's fine. But
Sorry, yeah, good.
if you notice the Rissa, her shield was up there, and then like that's where I kind of like
Yeah, so you
was there, and then her shield went down, and if I got up, I felt like I was gonna get charged
Yeah,
or
so
whatever.
even if the shield was up there, we probably shouldn't have set up there to begin with. It'd still be better if we were sitting back here because we can see the exact same angle, but now we're going to be much faster to get around this corner. So this is what you would call good usage of cover. So and then that gets around to positioning. Is if we are standing right here to get to any cover usage, we have to back up all the way around this corner. Whereas if we're standing right here and we get out of sentry and stand up and get around the corner, it takes us much shorter amount of time, which means that we can get out of line of sight of people and we'll take a lot less damage. And then on top of that, us having easier access to cover, it's also further putting ourselves further away from a character like Reinhardt, so that he can't get on top of us as easily. So even if the Orisa does place a shield forwards, we still probably should be a little bit further back.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Unfortunate, yeah. So okay. Hey, I would avoid just plopping yourself out in sentry form right in the middle of the open when you just have a bunch of people shooting at you. That's a recipe for just dying super easily if you're
Yeah.
doing that. So whenever we're setting up in sentry, we need to have either one of two things. Either it needs to be a surprise, or I guess you could summarize it as three things, right? Either you need to have sufficient team protection, such as shields in front of your face, whereas here we did not have that. Or you could have a surprise advantage. So let's say, for example, just let's say for example somehow we ended up being over here and we just plopped ourselves behind them, right? Now we could sentry form and we can melt them down before they have a chance to look at us, and then therefore it's not super risky. So if we have surprise advantage from behind or the side or whatnot, or we can also do it from far away. So like let's say for example we set up sentry like all the way back here. Well now a lot of characters in the game wouldn't be able to actually damage us. So if we look at their team composition, it'd be a lot harder for Diva to do anything to us, for Reinhardt to do anything to us, for for Junk, for a couple of the characters, right? For us them to actually shoot at us if we're far away, it'll be a lot more less accurate, and a lot of characters in the game do a lot less damage from far ranges. So if we set up further away, that's fine as well. But what we don't want to do is just go and plop ourselves down in the middle of the open when they're all looking at us, because then we're just going to take a bunch of damage and we could end up dying very easily.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm noticing a lot of times here we end up shooting longer than we should. So we end up wasting a lot of shots just because we keep holding down the button even when there's nobody there. So we probably want to be extending our mag as long as we can. That way we're not forced to reload very often. So anytime we're not able to shoot at anybody, we just want to stop shooting, right? So let's say, for example, like when Diva is using her defense matrix, you might want to just take this time to reload, right? This is time where we could be reloading. That way we actually have all our ammo to work with, or we can just pause. That way we still have, we're not wasting our ammo really. And it's just right now that's just kind of a waste of time right there. And then now we run out of ammo here. Also notice here how we shoot at the Ana, which is fine. But then after we're done shooting at the Ana, we just shoot at this wall for a little bit, and when there's nobody there, and then when we could have been reloading a little bit faster. So it's just, for some reason, Bash is making a bunch of annoying noises right now. In any case, right, we just a little bit of extra shooting. We probably could have just been reloading. On top of that, we want to make sure we're paying attention to the people who are going behind us here. As we do see half of their team walks right side. Yeah, we don't seem to be paying very much attention to them or looking around to watch them. And then Reinhardt ends up getting a charge on us. So we want to make sure we're paying attention to their Reinhardt, as now that has been 2 times where he's killed us with just by charging us. So we want to make sure we're paying attention to him. He is, incapable of actually killing us here if we just don't let him charge us by moving out of the way, by standing up and moving, whereas us standing still and still for him to charge us is what ends up getting us killed, right? Because we don't see him and then he just charges us and then we're dead. So now that has been 2 times in the course of like a minute that we've died, which is not a great rate to have currently. So we want to be making sure we are trying to stay alive longer.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. We do get res here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Very nice. Okay. Why don't we just do an in-depth positional guide real quick? Just, we'll go into this a little bit, and then I think we also might real quick just go over how to use uh yeah, we'll just go over a couple things here. So let me swap over to Bastion. So Bastion, and just this is how you position on any character in the game, really. We talked about this pretty briefly, but we'll go more in depth. So if we are standing right here, right, and the whole enemy team standing over there, and they're all shooting at us, they're all looking at us, it takes us 1, 2, 3 seconds to get behind cover. Now, from here, you cannot shoot through solid objects, so we're good. But in the time it took us to walk from here to there, we ended up dying because they shot us and killed us. Now, from
Yeah.
here, it takes us now half a second to do this. Now, that is 6 times faster than what it took us before, and now this means we have a lot more survivability because they cannot shoot at us and kill us, and we can get behind cover very fast. Now, there's a lot of different types of cover, right? We can use something like that, or we can use slopes, we can use pillars, right? So when we're out of ammo and reloading, when we're being shot at, in between shots, when we're ducking behind, we can use corners as well like that. random objects that are sitting around, right? Like we can use the payload like that. You have pillar, corner, doorway, corner, right? All these different places we want to use as cover. And then on top of that, we also have high grounds. High grounds all are very great positioning. When we have a high ground, they can see us, now they can't. He can see us, now he can't, right? Or at least we back up a little bit, right? CS can't. So all of high ground acts as natural cover to where now they can't see us. And then on top of that, we're also on top of the high grounds. We're not a lot of characters can reach us, right? So two-thirds of the characters in the game can actually get up to us. They need to use the stairway, and then the ones that can need to use abilities. And then finally, from here, we also have a lot of visibility, right? So that means we can see over here, over there, over here, over there, and over here. Whereas if we are on the floor here, we can't see over there, over there, over there, and none of the high grounds, right? So high ground's also going to be great positioning. So that's just a rough positional guide. And then moving on to some more, let's talk about crosshair placement real quick. So this matters when you're playing a character that hits headshots. Now, Bastion, when he's in Sentry, cannot hit headshots. You can only hit, it's not going to do any extra damage. But when you are in your recon form, you are going to be able to hit headshots, right? Because there's a difference between that and this. Now, when you're hitting headshots, you're doing a lot more damage than when you're hitting body shots. So we're probably going to
Yeah.
want to make sure we're aiming for headshots. So what that's a part of crosshair placement, and crosshair placement is aiming where basically aiming in the best place possible. So here that would be walking around aiming at head level, whereas we were looking down a little bit further. This means less adjustment to hit headshots, and then that's going to allow us to just get kills much easier. When there's less adjustment, it's an easier shot to hit than if we're just adjusting a little bit, right? Much easier shots. Now, when also on top of that, right, let's just say we're aiming at just aiming at body level, shooting down a corridor, shooting into shields. We're just hitting naturally body level, but if we're and body shots, but if we're aiming at head level, now we're just naturally hitting these headshots because we're aiming there. Right, that all makes sense?
Yeah, but the thing is that throws me off with that is a bunch of the characters aren't the same height,
Mm-hmm.
so you already have to like adjust for everything.
Yep.
So that's what like I was playing Soldier or May or Reaper, and then like a Torbjorn would like magically appear, and like I always aim like I try to aim higher, like aim for head level, and I'm pretty sure this was the game after that game where Tor was keep on sneaking by our team, like we had no idea.
Okay. So, a couple of things on that. So, yes, you are correct. The next part I was going to add into this is the second part of crosshair placement is aiming where you know people are going to be. We'll go over that real quick and then I'll address the rest. So, part of this is aiming, if we know that there's somebody top left, we can pre-aim top left, already aiming ahead level. That way, when he comes around the corner, we can actually get the kill on them very easily. Now, when they're here, they're left side again, we can come out here pre-aiming top left, already very easy kills. Now, like you just said, these guys over here are on a slope, so the same way we look down on a Torb and up on a tank, we're going to be looking down on these guys. So when we come around the corner, we're actually aiming at their head level still. So when it comes to Torbjorns, first off, most characters in the game do have a very similar head level. Like if we went over here and the Tracer's a little bit shorter, but if we went through Ash, we aim here and we just go through, right? That Bastion's a little bit higher. Doomfist is around the same, right? Doomfist head level the same. Echo's a little bit higher. Genji's, a little bit lower. Hanzo round, like we're already aiming at his head there, right? Junkrat already aiming, aiming a little bit too high, right? McCree head level, right? May head level right here, right? Farah head level. So most characters in the game do have the very similar head heights, and there's a couple that you will need to adjust up and down for. And yes, you want to pay attention to which ones you do have to adjust up and down for, but it is still going to be a lot more efficient to be at that default head level height for most characters. That way, your adjustment still is very little because most characters you're going to be aiming at the right height, and then on a Torbjorn you might just have to aim down a little bit. Now, most characters are not Torbjorn. Torbjorn has the lowest head hitbox in the game, and if we're aiming at the Torb head hitbox and we're aiming down here, right? Now, if we come up against like any other character, you're gonna be aiming way too low. Like pick any other character in the game, and you're aiming way too low if you're aiming down there, right? So
Yeah.
that means that we probably don't want to be aiming at Torb's level when we could be aiming up at the head level of other characters. So yes, we have to adjust for Torb. Yes, we're gonna have to adjust for tanks, right? If we're aiming at head level for a character like McCree, we are gonna have to aim up if we're aiming at a character like Zarya, right? Whose head hitbox is slightly higher, right? Or a character like Monkey, who is slightly. Oh, I guess never Monkey's the same, right? Reinhardt, who's slightly higher, right? So that all makes
Yeah.
sense then.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So besides that, I think that is pretty much it. Just I guess real quick a techie thing on Bastion. Just I guess two or three techie things. Not we haven't actually seen it in your gameplay yet, but since we're here in the training range, you might as well talk about them. So first off, and just sorry if you're already aware of them. I'm just gonna toss them out there real quick though. But first off, when it comes to your gun, it does have spread on it. So when you're pretty far away from people and you're using your recon, if we're just holding down the button, our shots are gonna be very inaccurate as at the range. Whereas if we tap fire, is actually going to the first couple of shots are going to be very straight, and then it'll start to spread out. So if we tap fire instead, where we go shoot, 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 then we're actually going to have straight shots the whole time, and we can hit shots much more effectively at a range. So you can see how we're actually going to hit those shots a little bit more accurately than if we just hold it down this whole time, where it's you see at the very end there, it's actually going to start to spread out. So this will mean that we're able to hit the shots much more accurately at a distance, especially. So tap firing can be very effective with that. Now, on top of that, with our ultimate, you can use your ultimate to jump up objects. So let's say, for example, we're trying to take a high ground. I believe we should be able to do something like this, where we
So you
can.
can
Mhm.
kind of do like a Zarya jump.
Yep, exactly. You can do that with a Bastion ult too. I'm pretty sure that might be a
A
pushing
little
it.
higher.
Go ahead.
The
Yep.
the Bastion like
Yep.
explosions are higher than a Zarya jump, but
Yep. Exactly.
basically same thing.
And then on top of that as well, in between shots on Bastion, you're probably going to, unless you don't need healing, but in between shots on Bastion, you can also heal while you're ulting, and then it would look something like
Yeah.
this, where you shoot, heal, right, and that kind of pairs well in it. So actually, I guess, yeah, you can actually reach it from here. No, you can. Okay, so you can use it to get up some jumps, but those two, it seems like you knew that one. So
Yeah.
let's continue on here. Go
I
ahead.
think the next time I use my ult that game, I'm pretty sure I did the shoot heal. If I'm
Yeah.
not,
All right,
I
so I
could be wrong though.
think we're on King's Row here.
Do you think we'll be able to get through another game or just one?
It really depends. This is a 22-minute game, so if you're definitely not a 22-minute game now, if you wanted to go over something specific in another game, you can just skip over to the next game if you wanted to.
Yeah, I have one on Watchpoint Gibraltar. It's me mostly playing soldier, so
Okay, so would you like to do that now or later?
now if possible,
Yep.
since we only have an hour.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
So okay. All right. 2YJOPQ.
All right, it's up.
Arriving at Watchpoint Gibraltar, ready for
All right,
battle.
so here we are 7. Oh, it's not been pushed for, it's a little too far. Whoops.
Team, heal up here.
Okay, probably not a super necessary health pack. The health pack didn't do very much there, so just watch for that. Right, we want to actually drop it when it's
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah, but I don't always use it for me. Sometimes I use it for my teammates to help them more than me.
To be honest, that's a very overrated way that people say to use health packs. It's applicable in certain situations. I probably say just pay attention to your health bars of your teammates, as here our teammates don't really need health pack or like health it, right? Just look at the top right as we drop it. So look at when we drop it. Nobody needs healing besides Orisa, and Orisa's nowhere near your health pack. So health pack here currently doesn't do very much. And in most cases, you're going to want to use it for yourself. Not because it's anything selfish or any of that thing. It's just you're going to benefit most from your health packs versus your team. That's something that people just really say it's a pretty niche thing, to be honest, right? It's not gonna be applicable in most scenarios, so I would say more often than not use it for yourself, but then also pay attention to the health bars of those around you, so we're not plopping it down when it's not needed, because it is a 15-second cooldown. Okay, make sure that we're not running up ahead of our shield. Make sure we're sticking behind our tanks here. We both have an Orisa shield and a Ryan shield and 2 tanks. Right? If we stick behind these guys, we can shoot them just as efficiently from behind the shields. But instead we end up pushing past it. So like let's say for example here, where we probably could be shooting at, we could shoot at Junkrat just fine from here, Hog just fine from here. Yet instead we push up into the Junkrat, which is definitely not what we want to be doing, as he has a much closer range than we do, so we want to make sure we're sticking outside of it.
Yeah.
Okay, now we do end up getting the kill. The other thing I would recommend here is they're not holding high ground, so this would be a very easy way to take high ground, easy time to take high ground right now, and we'd see a lot of benefits from that. So if we just run around up here to the top right, we could just get up behind them, take the high ground advantage. We already talked about why it's so good, and then on top of that, this gets us around tanks and shields as well.
Yeah.
Okay, here we do not seem to be paying attention to the Moira when she's right next to us. Look at the Moira, she's right in front of us here with half HP. Very easy target for us to finish off with the Helix, though we end up shooting the D.Va instead and ignoring her. On top of the fact that we do have a health pack we could be placing when we're 86 HP, so this is stuff that getting into a little bit of awareness, of paying attention to our environment. This is for the same reason that we died to the Reinhardt twice from charging us. We want to make sure we're paying attention to our surroundings so we can make better decisions. For example, shooting at Moira. So there just seems like we didn't notice her, and we also want to make sure dropping health pack when we need healing.
Okay.
Everyone, heal up.
Make sure when we're aiming helixes, we look down when we're aiming them. This way, if it misses them, instead of sailing past them, it hits the floor. Exactly.
Yeah. Splash damage, yeah. I think I do that to some people in this game, like against like multiple people. I think I shot at the floor.
Yep, you're gonna want to use it. You do that. You don't want to shoot at the floor. You want to shoot at their feet, right? You want to aim at their feet. That way, if you do miss, then it does hit the floor. But you're not trying to purposefully hit the floor.
Yeah.
Okay, here probably still recommend be in between fights, especially make sure you're retaking high grounds. That would just be a really good place for us to be positioned currently.
Come here and get stable.
Good kill there. Okay, it seems like we're AFKing a little bit.
No, I think I was waiting for Eric.
Heal up here. Only gets better with age.
Okay, very nice. I'm noticing that we don't use Helix very often. I'd like to see us using Helix more often, as we can probably get a lot of... Go ahead.
I don't think I was using it because D.Va and Moira were right in my face, so I didn't want to like explode myself, because I've had that happen a lot, especially when I'm fighting tanks.
It does very little damage most of the time, so the only time you wouldn't want to do that is if you're already low, whereas here we have 200 HP. And we want it to be able to burst down people's HPs. Here we could be using it on the D.Va, and D.Va's not in our face currently. It's really only going to be doing anything. Like if they're like right here on top of you, that's where it's going to do something, right? But it's not going to do it from that range that we're currently at.
Okay.
Okay, so we could still be using it at any point during this time. Here, there we helix the floor a little bit too low.
Protect the payload.
Get over here and heal up.
This is not your time to defend the barrier. The payload has reached the checkpoint.
Okay, again, probably use the okay. That's unfortunate. Max range hook.
Yeah, I think I was like swearing so hard when I saw the hook come toward me. I'm like, there's no way that hit me.
Yeah, it looks like it also went through the
The cart, yeah,
no,
that's what I was pissed about.
not necessarily the cart. It was the doorway there. Look at the doorway.
Yeah.
Okay,
No
here
rest
instead of
for the
coming out low
weary.
ground, come out high ground. Take the high ground. I'm also gonna keep an eye on when we're using our ult here because we did hold on to it for a fight.
Yeah.
So let's see when we actually use it. Yep, high ground is very, very good positioning. I would very heavily recommend taking it. On
Yeah, I
top of
don't
that,
think I
good.
I don't think I used the high ground a single time in this game.
Yep. Very heavily recommended. That will keep you alive much more often. On top of that, noticing that we are pushing in when we do not have teammates alive. We are pushing in when it's a 3 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Real quickly, let's just talk about how to tell whether or not you've won or lost fights, because this goes into that. So, how to tell whether or not you've won or lost fights. This comes down to mainly watching kill feed. Kill feed's the top
Yeah.
right corner of your screen. When you are up 1 to 2 people, that is a advantage, right? When you have an advantage, you can play
Hmm.
more aggressively because they have less people to shoot at you. When you are up 2 to 3 people, that is a one fight. At that point, you're not going to want to use ults, and you're also going to want to play super aggressively because you've won, right? Now, this also goes the exact opposite way. When you are down 1 to 2, that is a disadvantage. Now, you haven't lost the fight yet, but you might want to play a little bit more passive because you are losing the fight. And then when you are down 2 to 3, that is where you have lost the fight, right? That would be this situation, right, where it is a 6v3, right?
Yeah.
In that situation, it's a lost fight. You don't want to use ults, and you also want to look to get out if possible, or if you can't, you want to let them kill you as fast as possible so that you don't stagger yourself. Now, here we end up running into a fight that's basically already lost, right? We're running into a fight that we've already lost, which means that now all we're doing here is just staggering ourselves. Are you familiar with the term staggering?
Wait, what?
Are you familiar with the term staggering?
Staggering?
Staggering.
I don't think I am.
Okay. So staggering is basically just dying late. When right here when we die, we are staggering ourselves because now look at what happens, right? We die. Um I assume, yeah, we die. So now let's look at what happens. Well, now we have our team pushing out, and then they might end up dying here, right? So our team ends up pushing forwards, and they're all up fighting while we're dead in spawn. So staggering is dying late, and then now because we ended up staggering, now our team's in the middle of fighting while we could be there helping them out, and we're not helping them out because we're dead. So that is what staggering is. Staggering can start stagger trains where we stagger and then somebody else staggers and then somebody else staggers and you trickle in one by one by one. We don't want to let that happen. So big thing is just don't run in on your own. Take the high ground. Also, just don't stand out in the open and run straight into them. Okay, awareness. We don't seem to be paying attention to our surroundings. And then also, why don't we talk about target priority real quick? So, target priority is what we should be shooting at, right? Is what are the best things to be shooting at? For the most part, that is not tanks. Tanks have 2 to 3 times the health of other characters. They have armor, which does also additional damage reduction. They have shields and tanking abilities. And then also on top of that, though they are very um, they can carry very easily and they are a very important role. Their job is to create space for other characters, whereas supports output healing and DPS output damage, which means they're the ones who output statistical data, right? Therefore, they're the ones we want to be killing as supports and DPS. Whereas I've noticed a lot of the times here, we come out and immediately start shooting at the tanks when we have the opportunity to shoot at other things. Now,
Yeah.
that's not to say that we never shoot at tanks, right? We shoot at tanks when they're low, when they're out of position, when they're the only thing to shoot at. But when we come around this corner and we have a Junkrat who's standing out in the open, very close to us, very easy to kill, we should be shooting at the Junkrat, not the Hog, who has 3 times his health and has a healing ability and can get healed by his team very easily, right? That's who we don't want to be shooting at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone, heal up. And stay down. Anyone need some healing?
You cannot damage your mech after it's already dead, so this is kind of, again, the same thing as what we're talking about with Bastion. Stop shooting once there's nothing to shoot at, right? So
Yeah.
once she's out of mech, it's just better that you wait a second until she gets out, and then you can helix her and melee her as well. That make sure helixing more often. Helix is just a very powerful ability that you're going to be getting very often. Most of the time, the main function of your helix is going to be to burst down a target and to finish it off. Is a finisher.
Okay.
Your helix can do a maximum of like 120 damage, I believe, which
Yeah, it is.
means that yeah. So that means that if you helix somebody when they're below 120 HP, you're going to one-shot them, right? Whereas if you
Mm-hmm.
try to pepper them down, well, now they have time to get healed and time to run away and time to use tanking abilities and time to, do all this other things. Whereas if we helix them to finish them off, we secure the kill and make sure that they're dead. So, you know, so just using our helix faster on people, using it more often. I'm also noticing that this is fight number 2.5-ish that we have not used our ultimate, so we'll keep an eye on that. But in general, we want to make sure that we're using our ultimate much more often, as
Yeah.
when we don't use our ultimates, they don't do anything. It doesn't get any value. So we just want to make sure we're using it more often.
Payload secure.
Nanoboost administered. Heroes never die.
Okay. Drop health back a little bit earlier as soon as you get trapped instead of like afterwards. We also don't seem to notice the Junkrat. Again, make sure we're looking and listening. So here we can hear him shooting and walking right next to us. And then we can also see him on the corner of our screen. So here you see Junkrat through the wall here, but you're about to see him in a moment. You see him on the corner of your screen. You hear him shooting. You see him shooting. Or not see him shooting, but you hear him shooting, right? We can hear him just walking around behind us.
I gotta be honest. I didn't hear him at all.
Yeah, so here you probably can't hear because I have my volume low. Typically, I
No,
keep
it's not.
mm,
It's in while I was in game. I
in
didn't
game.
hear him.
Okay, so in that case, you can turn up your volume, but then it's also
Yeah.
about making sure you're intentionally
Since that
listening.
game, I've turned my music volume all the way down. I turned
Yep.
my sound effects down slightly and master volume more up. So
hmm
because I the music was over everything and I couldn't hear anything.
Yep. I definitely would recommend that. So, yep, that's a good move. On top of that, you can also notice when people are shooting at you. So let's say Junkrat starts shooting at you. Notice that it will give you a damage indicator of the direction in which you took damage. So right underneath your crosshair, you will see a red mark from behind, indicating that there's a Junkrat behind you. Right. So we
Yeah.
want to make sure also paying attention to that too.
It was the suicide things that got me.
Let's get you back in the fight.
Thanks, Doc.
Nerf this.
Okay. Make sure we're watching the arc of it. We look up and we see it and we see that it's dropping on top of us, and you can, on the top right corner of your screen, you can see the exclamation point as it's traveling, and you see that it's dropping. Yeah, we kind of just sit still, so we want to make sure we're watching. And again, this gets it kind of into awareness a little bit as well. It's just paying attention to our surroundings, of looking. We see it's above us, yet it's traveling to the right. It's traveling downwards, right? So that ends up getting us when we could use cover there, right?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's like fight 3 that now we haven't used ults. Good job, good decision to back up there. But again, we want to make sure actually ulting here, as we haven't had a chance yet. Good decision to back all the way. Though we do to come back in and then die as a result. We're dying pretty often, so let's talk about deaths real quick. Deaths aren't very good, whoop-de-doo, right? But
Yeah.
going more in depth on that, right? Every time you die, you are wasting 10 seconds of time where you are respawning, and then roughly 10 seconds of time where you are walking back to point, which is going to be around 20 seconds a death. Which really adds up over the course of a game, especially when you're dying this frequently. So far, I believe we've died like 4 times-ish, right? In 5 minutes, which is a minute and 20 seconds, which is quite a bit. over the course of an entire game when that really adds up. So we want to make sure we're dying a lot less. Dying is also how we have an impact on losing these fights, is because now we lose all of our carry potential and our impact while also putting our team at a negative disadvantage. So here we just overstay our welcome when we're losing this fight, and we should be grouping up and waiting for our team, and we therefore get killed. And then we also just want to watch Junkrat while he's shooting at us and just duck around the corner. Now, are we getting res? No, we're not. And then notice that because we staggered, right, you see the staggering, right? That was a stagger right there. Now our team goes in without us, and then they stagger, and then it's a 3v6 now instead of a 6v6, and then they're gonna die, and then we're gonna run back in afterwards, and then that means that opens up for us to die again. So now instead of going in a 6v6 where it's even, we keep going in 1 by 1 by 1 or 2 by 2 by 2, and then therefore it's always a 6v2, which we're never gonna win, right?
Yeah.
Because here we're walking back in when we don't have people. Helix to finish him off. Okay, that was good. Helix to finish him off. That's good.
Payload secure. Move out.
Okay, this has now been like fight number 4 that we have not used our ultimate. In this time, we could have probably used like 3 ults, 3 or maybe 2 ults, right? 2 to 3 ults. In that, 2 to 3 ults is much higher value than 0 ults, right? You're getting a lot more out of it. Use your ult much more often. It has done nothing so far, right? Whereas we could be doing actually something with it.
Yeah. Well, I think what I was doing was I was waiting for my team to kind of like come up behind me and support me with it, but then like they never kind of like grouped up again.
Which a lot of that was due to ourselves not grouping up with them,
Yeah.
which caused us to stagger. But if you're going to be engaging them, and we won this fight anyways, we might as well use your ultimate, even if you don't have you don't need to have a full team of 6 to use your ultimate. And we have had other fights where we have had teammates and we still didn't use ults. So I mean, it's just four fights in a row is too much to not be using your ultimate.
Yeah.
There we had Helix to finish her off faster, use her Helix to burst her down. Right there, if you eat Helix, she's dead, and then that cancels res. Here we, yep, nice Helix. Take the high ground as well here, just as repositioning.
Surrender to my will.
Okay, very nice. No, we won this one again, but this is now fight number 5. Right, we just keep count.
Yeah.
Need some healing. Form up on the payload.
Okay, here we probably want to be repositioning, preferably just running up top right, taking the high ground. Can't emphasize enough, high ground's gonna be very, very good positioning, is gonna keep you alive a lot longer, give you better angles to work with, and give you a lot more survivability.
Yeah.
Team up for special attack.
Come here, dipstick.
Okay, this would be a perfect time just to be ulting. As soon as we hear Genji blading, we can just ult him from here and just melt him down, and then we can also use our visor while we have the bongo active, because now that we have bongo active, we're going to be doing a lot more damage. So, and we also have we have 2 damage boosts here, so going for visor here would also be very effective. Just using it is going to be very, very powerful, yet we don't seem to be at the moment, so this would make fight number 6 without it.
Yeah, I don't think I used it at all. Well, actually,
Why are we
I
stopped?
think I used it once, and
This payload.
yeah.
So that was fight number 6, right? By now we could have had it, 4 or 5 times ish around that mark and have used it that many times if we're using it once per fight. Okay, so now we use it. This isn't too terrible, though we are keeping in mind that we are using it when we're down 2 tanks. So just we're walking in here when we're already at a 6v4, which isn't going to be super great for you. So just keep that in mind. But besides that, we have actually used it, so it's better than not using it. It's just after, in the 7th fight, right?
Yeah.
And make sure we're targeting the right things while we're visoring. Here while we visor,
I think I was going after the Mercy.
make sure we're aiming MRC then in that case, as we're aiming at the hog the whole time. Right, so make sure make sure we're aiming at the better things to be shooting, right, besides hog.
Yeah.
Allow me to repair the gun.
Yeah, very nice. For the most part, I think health pack usage has actually been pretty solid.
Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it, have we been sprinting is a question. Because I'd probably say the issue is that we just kind of sit in place. We don't usually rotate very much, and then therefore sprinting, we don't really use sprint. But just keep in mind that sprinting is very valuable as we can use it to very, very fastly reposition to better positioning. Yeah, a lot of times you just kind of walk towards people very slowly and you just kind of stand in place. And then therefore we don't end up using sprinting a lot.
Yeah, I think I don't use it because it puts away your gun where you can't exactly shoot immediately. And that's kind of what I don't like, but...
Which sprinting is very, very powerful in terms of getting from place to place faster. You're not going to be shooting during every single second of the game. And in fact, if you are shooting at every single second of the game, that is not going to be very efficient when you should be using that time to rotate to better positioning, right? So we should be usually the time I'd say we should be sprinting is while walking back from spawn, and then also just while we're repositioning up to high grounds, whereas we don't typically reposition. Okay, so we do use our ult again there. Make sure that we're paying attention to the Genji, as there is a Genji who's bleeding like right next to us. Actually, in this situation, it is last fight rate, it's overtime, but maybe what we can be doing is sprinting. This could be a situation if we're trying to get away from the Genji, is we could be sprinting backwards, right, to run away from the Genji fast, and then that would put us in a better position to be visoring from, whereas there we die to his blade.
Yeah.
Alright.
Ready for battle.
Position on the high ground to start off. Right, you can be positioning yourselves where Rissa is, where, up here, anything, just gonna be better than being in the low ground.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we actually do.
4, 3,
I think I would just jump off.
attackers incoming.
Let me get you patched up.
Maybe, I don't know.
Cast this forth. I require assistance.
Come here and get stabilized.
There again, we kind of use it when nobody is particularly in need of healing, so just hold on to it for when people do need healing a little bit more.
Yeah.
Get into position.
Okay.
Should have kept your head down.
Oh, very nice. Oh, kind of rolling. Make sure you're not walking straight into a Junkrat again, right? Soldier, we haven't talked directly on this, but Soldier is a mid-ranged character. He prefers a mid-ranged because there are other characters who do better at close range, and he does not have particularly any close range abilities. Whereas a character like Junkrat is a lot more accurate at a close range and can one-shot you with a shoot mine in about half a second. Whereas Soldier cannot really do that any more effectively at a close range. And then there's characters like Reaper.
I think I
And
rushed
Reinhardt.
because I saw that he was reloading.
You saw that Junkrat was reloading? I mean, in any case, you still want to be, even if he's first off, we run at him, I'd probably say, before we even see the opportunity. Like, we start moving forwards, like, right here, and he's not in the reload animation, right?
He wasn't?
No, because he starts the reload animation now. So, notice again, we'll put it a little bit slower if you need to. Okay, slow down. Right, so as we're pushing forwards here, Junkrat is currently not in the reload animation. So we are walking forwards before we see he's reloading, right?
Okay.
First off here. Secondly, even if he is reloading, you can do the exact same amount of damage from sitting just slightly further back and then not risk getting up in his face, right? So now he starts reloading, right? But we don't kill him in time, and then that means that he's just able to get the shot off on us. So, let's say for example, like he wasn't reloading, or he just got an extra shot in on us, or somebody else shot us too. Well, then we'd be dead. So just keep the medium distance from people.
Yeah.
I've got you in my sights.
Okay. Probably not necessary, just because it's not, you want to use your ultimates, right? You don't want to hold on to it, but you also want to use ultimates when fights are actually happening. You don't want to use ults when fights aren't happening. Right now it's a 1 2 3 4 5 6 versus a 1 2 3, and Moira's 1 HP, which means that this is a very heavily a one fight, and therefore this ultimate should not be, it shouldn't be being used, just because it's not going to do anything. It's just overkill, right? It's not needed when you would have won this. You have won this fight anyways, right? It hasn't accomplished anything here. So in this
Yeah.
situation, it'd just be better if we hold on to it for the next fight when it might actually be useful. So just make sure we're paying attention to that.
Perspiration of the morning.
Very nice. Again, make sure we're not walking ahead of our shields when we do have like an Orisa shield just right next to us. We just go like this, then boom, we're safe. We also have high grounds we can use, and we also should be dropping our health pack just so we can stay alive longer. Whereas here we just are doing, living a little dangerously at the moment, and then that almost got us killed.
Yeah.
Watch being crouched in the middle, just look at our current positioning. It just makes it very, very easy for people to shoot at us where we're currently standing, right? Especially when
Yeah.
you're up at higher ranks, you're just going to get instantly melted. And here we do get died because of that positioning, because we're just standing in front of our whole team, not on high grounds, out in the open, not using good cover usage, and then therefore we die, right? So we just want to make sure paying attention to our positioning so we actually stay alive and not die.
Yeah.
Oh, massive tire.
Get over here, healer.
Okay, so let's see. Why do we die here? So, whenever you die, we've talked about why deaths are bad. So let's look, every time you die, it's a good idea to look at the deaths and go, okay, why did I die? Right? Like, what could I have done instead to stop it? So, first off, high ground has been a thing that we could have done this entire game, right? But besides that, like, let's ignore that, right? On top of that, there's also a Moira on top of us. So potentially here, if we see that we're being damaged and we don't have supports, we can run through and maybe try to get over to our supports here, kill the Junkrat here, and then run in their direction. I think, do we get shot by Junkrat there? I think Junkrat
Yeah.
hits us. Yeah.
One of those things explodes. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're maybe sprinting around and running towards our team could put us in a better position. We don't have cover anywhere here, so it's just not a good spot, right? This is the absence of cover. Good positioning is the usage of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of cover. Right here we have an absence of cover, and then therefore we die. So the big major part of this is just positioning, right? There's four things that usually lead to deaths: bad positioning, poor awareness, right? A lack of awareness, over aggression, or misuse of abilities. Here is that poor positioning, right? And that's what gets us killed here.
Yeah.
And that's what got us killed in the death before that as well, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so here just come into the high grounds.
I've got you in my sights.
Paying attention to kill feed. Currently it's a 1 2 3 4 5 versus a 1 2, and then they have 2 walking back, and then these guys are 1 HP and half HP as well. And then on top of that, we also don't really on top of it, we're us already winning this fight significantly. We're not in a very good angle to be using our ult from. Like Diva and Sigma can just shield us and defense matrix us, and we don't really have any. They can just run around the corner. Like Diva can run behind cart, Sigma can run behind cart, and then we can't see them. So not very good timing with it either, of to be able to actually see people.
Resistance
Yeah.
neutralized.
Okay. Positioning again, or positioning / over aggression. Notice how we're very, very far forwards, right? We're in the middle of 1 2 3 4 people right on their team, and we're very far ahead of our team, out in the open, no cover anywhere. Therefore, this is a mix between over aggression and poor positioning, so make sure we're not going this far into them. And then as soon as we get bashed here, we should probably be backing up and getting back to our team.
Yeah.
I'm not a young man anymore.
60 seconds remaining.
All right, so let's exit out here. We are going to go over some stuff. So we are going to go over what were the things we're going to go over the main points of the session, then we're going to do a quick review mixed in there, and then finally wrap up the session
We're
from
all
there.
soldiers
So
now.
main points, I'd probably say let me think about that for a second. So ults was a big one, right? We're going to use that. Ability
Yeah.
usage was, I'd probably say probably more around the medium. It needed work, but it also wasn't terrible with a couple of them, especially. Then moving on, mechanics, I think I had a little bit. Then I'm just thinking through them. Okay, so number one thing was positioning, as we died
Mhm.
a ton from being out of position, and then also you got to keep in mind that positioning sets up kills, right? Good when you can have the best mechanics in the world and be out of position and not be able to capitalize on those mechanics. Positioning is what sets up you to be able to get kills. So let's talk
Yeah.
through a couple of those things. First off, good positioning is usage of cover, bad positioning is the absence of cover. Make sure we're using cover, not standing out in the open, right, which we did a lot, right? Secondly, make sure we're taking high
We got a
grounds.
lot
High
to
grounds
learn.
give you a ton of survivability. They all act as cover. People can't get up to them very easily. You can contest other people from taking the high grounds. They can get you around tanks and shields, and they act as off angles. And then on top of that, they also act as very good visibility, where we can see a ton of different people. So take high grounds and try to rotate there in between fights. Go to the best positioning possible in between fights, right?
You
And then
ain't
that's
seen me angry.
basically rough positioning, right? Number two, I would probably say goes to awareness, as we just weren't aware a lot of times of what was going on around
Age
us,
before
right? We made
beauty.
bad decisions
Guess you're coming in
based off of that.
third.
So first off, make sure you're paying attention to kill feed. Kill feed's at the top right corner of your screen, right? It shows you when you're up or down people. When you are up 1 to 2 people or down to 1 to 2 people, that is an advantage or a disadvantage. 2 to 3 is a won or lost fight. No ults in won or lost fights. And then you also want to look
Double
to
kill.
go in aggressively or back out, and if you can, or if you can't, let them kill you. This way you don't stagger
Double
yourself.
kill. Triple
Make
kill.
sure we're not
The
pushing in when we
mission's
don't
all
have
that
teammates,
matters.
right? So if we're pushing in to 6 people when it's just us or just like 3 of us, then that's us going into a fight that we've already lost, and we did that quite a bit, right?
Double kill.
Make sure we're not
Yeah.
ulting, as we ulted a lot in fight, or we ulted a couple times in fights where it was already won or lost, or in between
Double
We
fights,
all
right?
got
So
a
make sure we're ulting
talent.
during fights. And then besides that, a lot of other things. Pay attention to our health bar and the health bars of our teammates around us, so we know when we need to drop health packs, and then not dropping it randomly when teammates don't need it. And then on top of that, pay attention to where's the enemy team, where's my team. There was a lot of times where there would just be someone right next to us and we wouldn't notice them, like the Junkrat who snuck up next to us like 3 times that game, and we just didn't notice that he was there. So pay attention to your surroundings. Pay attention to
Double
where your
kill.
team is. Pay attention to your audio awareness, right? So listen to your surroundings, up your volume if you need to, but then also just make sure you're actively listening for footsteps and gunshots and
Double
ultimates
kill.
and abilities, right? Just pay attention to what's happening, right? Number 3 here, I'm probably going to put at your ultimate usage, as we just didn't flat up didn't use it
Double
very
kill.
often at all, and then when we did use it, a lot of times it was in between fights. So make sure we're using it during
Double
fights,
kill.
and we're not holding on to it, as when we hold on to it, it doesn't do anything at
Double
all,
We
kill.
got
right?
a
So
lot to
Triple kill.
use
learn.
it any
I'm
fight
just
that has
getting
not been won or
started.
lost yet, right? And just use it much more often. Also, make sure that when you are ulting, people can't just immediately run away from you and get around the corner. So let people be out in the open. So if they're right here, that might be a good time to ult. But if they're both over inside, then it might be a bad time to ult. Okay,
Yeah.
4 here is probably going to be your mechanics.
Double
Make
kill.
sure that we are
Triple
aiming
kill.
at head level and having good crosshair placement, aiming where we know people are going to be, and then
Double
on
kill.
And
top of
stay
that,
down.
make sure that we have good target priority, that we're aiming at
Double
the
kill.
tanks, or not not aiming at tanks, right? Aiming at supports and DPS over tanks unless they're the only thing to shoot at or they're low or out of position. And then finally, we have ability usage, just a couple odds and ends things here. Helix a little bit more often, use it to finish off people, aim at people's feet with it so that even if we miss, it hits the floor instead of sailing past them. If we aim here, it goes sailing past. If we aim here and we miss it, it hits them still, right? Drop the health pack when you need it, and then make sure we're paying attention to our health bar and health bars of teammates around us. And then finally, sprint much more often. Honestly, you're going to be getting your gun. Yes, you can't shoot while sprinting, but you recover from it very, very fast. So we can sprint over here, shoot. We can sprint over here, shoot. Sprint, shoot. So anytime we sprinted very we barely ever sprinted. You sprint anytime you're ever moving anywhere while not shooting. Right, anytime you're going anywhere. So you're walking back from spawn, you're rotating up to a high ground, you want to move to the side for half a second, you want to back up, you want to get closer to them, you're sprinting, just because it's going to get you there faster and get you into a better position faster, right? So let's say we're on the low ground here, we're shooting, we shoot stuff, we want to rotate high ground, we sprint, right? We're up on high ground, we shoot, we want to rotate over here, we sprint, right? We shoot, there's nothing here, or they're shooting at us, then we back up and we sprint, right? You can sprint for like half a second if you want to too. We can sprint here and then just let go. Sprint, let go, right? Sprint, let go, right? It doesn't have to be for super long. Yes, you cannot shoot while sprinting, but you aren't always going to be shooting every single moment of the game, right? You shouldn't be shooting every moment of the game, like we discussed earlier. So you sprint more often. And to be honest, because now that I'm thinking of it, honestly, I'm going to put ability usage over mechanics. So ability usage does come in number 4 and the mechanics comes in number 5. So we'll swap those two around. All right. Finally, some Bastion things. Make sure you're not just plopping yourself in the middle of nowhere with Bastion, especially like in Sentry form, right? That's the recipe for getting yourself killed. Do it from when it's a surprise, do it from behind shields, and then do it if you're far away from people. And then tap fire your gun when you're like really far away from people. Just like 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. I actually don't remember how many it is straight, but it's something along those lines. And then besides that, that's pretty much it. So, do you have any questions on anything that we've talked about here?
No, I think I got it.
All right, man. So then I'm going to stop the recording there.